Seth Stokes, 1063 WORD News here at City Hall, talking with Ms. Mary Douglas, the Downtown Manager of Economic Development here in Greenville. And Mary, thank you for taking some time to talk to me today. And I know there was a big vote yesterday evening, and then some training going on this morning about guidelines for new city development, if I'm not mistaken.
The City of Greenville is updating the downtown design guidelines. Last night, City Council voted to approve the guidelines, which basically calls for good urban development principles for new construction, renovations of existing buildings, things like new signage, etc. So we now have new design standards.
So with these new design standards, what's changed from what they were previously?
Well, the main part that has changed has been before the old guidelines separated downtown into a pedestrian zone and then a vehicular zone. And what we found out was really all areas of downtown is now more pedestrian oriented. So we did away with those two distinct areas and incorporated guidelines for all of the central business district. So the other thing that has changed has been the process, and we heard this loud and clear from the public when we met with them, that the process for applying for a project was not as clear as it could have been. So the new guidelines really spell out the steps for projects, and it's a much more clear process for people.
So it makes it a little more user-friendly?
Absolutely. It makes it a lot more user-friendly. People know what to expect, what the city requires of new projects to be submitted. We have a list of the requirements and also the meetings and the steps that they will go through to get their projects approved.
With the more clear-cut set of guidelines, do you think that will maybe entice people to move forward on some projects that maybe they would have shied away from previously?
Well, we hope so. I mean, the City of Greenville, we're really trying to be transparent, and we want to work with people on their projects and their ideas. So the guidelines are really meant to be a starting point for a dialogue with developers and the real estate community about kind of what they're trying to achieve and how that can fit in with the design of the city.
When you talk about the design of the city and Greenville specifically, how would you characterize the design of the city now, and where do you see it moving to?
Well, the design of downtown Greenville is very walkable. You really don't need your car. And the consultants that we hired to help us with the guidelines, they talked about how eventually everyone downtown becomes a pedestrian. So we want that to be a good experience as people are walking through our center city. And to do that, we've narrowed our main street. We have worked hard on our downtown streetscapes, making sure we have trees to provide shade. So it's a pleasant experience. You notice a lot of public art, interesting buildings, and all of that is really by design. It doesn't just happen. And that is what the guidelines help us to achieve, is the predictability, the walkability, and the attractive use of colors and materials.
What all goes into coming up with that sort of design and then setting forth guidelines to build around?
Well, this new document, the new guidelines, talks about 6 key principles that sort of drive the guidelines. One is the walkability of downtown. Things need to be walkable. They need to be connected so people can know where they're going throughout the city. Green, we talked about kind of best practices in incorporating green spaces in developments, the use of LED lighting, etc. Resilient, we want the buildings to stand the test of time rather than look specifically like a specific business. We want the buildings to be able to outlive tenants and to offer a variety of different uses there. And there's several others. Let's see here. If I could just look at those real quick. Human scaled is another one. It really has to feel comfortable for people. And then active. So we want active street edges as people are walking along. We don't want blank walls. We want storefronts and creative signage to engage people.
Do you ever get any pushback when you come up with these new guidelines and new I guess rules for how the city should look?
Well, I think it goes back to having a really good public process. If you involve the public on the front end, it's a lot easier to kind of move forward with new guidelines or new master plans. but the public sector was with us when we first started kind of outlining these. We had a lot of public meetings. We had a survey that people could take online to give us kind of their feedback. So there really wasn't a lot of pushback because we based these principles on the 6 things that I mentioned that people were really interested in. So the consultants took the survey results and what they heard at the public hearings, and those drove the guidelines.
Just in your opinion, what is the best aspect of the City of Greenville?
Well, with the City of Greenville, I think that the best aspect might be that it's comfortable for people, and it's a city that is built for people. The parking is kind of on the side streets, and that is by design. We don't want parking garages right on the front of our main street. And so that shows that we emphasize people. We work to incorporate places for people to live, work, and play. And so downtown really works well because there's something for everyone in all ages. We have a number of events now that drive a lot of foot traffic downtown. The store owners are here, day in and day out. So really it's an exciting place because it's unique and it's not something you can find anywhere else.
Do you feel like that uniqueness and the fact that everything is so accessible and walkable makes Greenville a more attractive place for events to be held in the city?
Oh, definitely. I think that now we have so many events, and that's a great thing, but we're now kind of looking at where other events could be held throughout our city, on the side streets, other parts of the city like the Clemson University International Center for Automotive Research, or CUI-CAR. We have a number of events there. So downtown, there's always a balance, and we work with the merchants on Main Street, and we are very careful. If we have road closures, we're very sensitive about that and the impact on business. So we like to give them the heads up about events that are kind of coming up. And it definitely is a balance because you want events, but you also want economic development. So
Right.
they can definitely work together, and that's what we try to do.
So what is maybe the next big project coming down the pipe for Greenville?
Well, the next big project, I think one thing that came out of our design guidelines is the city needs to go ahead and take another look at our downtown master plan. And so at some point in the future, we'll probably update our plans so we kind of know where we're headed. City Council is very committed to downtown Greenville as well as our whole city. So there is discussions and planning underway for a new city park that is on the west side of downtown, and that will be a huge asset and amenity to downtown residents as well as visitors. So we're working on that now. And also we're looking at affordable housing and incorporating some more various price points of residential units throughout the city.
Absolutely. Well, that sounds like an exciting time moving forward.
Yeah, it's a great place to be. Greenville is a wonderful city, and I think the city leadership, as I said, is very committed to our city, and we're always trying to improve it.
So for anybody that's curious as to what all went on in the meetings, last night and this morning, is there anywhere online that the guidelines are set out and sort of where people can just look and see what's coming?
Yes, we have the new guidelines on the city website, greenvillesc.gov, and people can go to the Planning Development Department, and the guidelines will be under the design guideline link there.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Seth Stokes, 106.3 WORD News.